Good day, Miss Lape. It's me again, Roy Luther Agad, from your Medical Laboratory Science class, Section A17. And in this video, I will be discussing in detail my designed exercise prescriptions both for cardiovascular conditioning and muscular resistance training using the FITT format. So the FITT, as we know, of course, stands for frequency, intensity, time, and type. And I've designed my prescription just like that. So without further ado, let's get the video started. So for the introductory part, I'd be starting my training on Sunday, that's October 2, 2022. And I will be doing this initially for 4 consecutive weeks. So that should technically end by October 29. Yeah. I'm 19 years old, and the following, is my initial prescription. Jump starting with the cardiovascular conditioning, let's begin with frequency. So this should measure how often I would perform the exercises every week. Now, acknowledging the sedentary lifestyle I've used to live for so long, I would not risk my body into abrupt exposure. So thrice a week would do good in the meantime, at least for this activity. I intend to do the exercises every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday morning. I for intensity. Wow, so by definition, this goes to the level of vigor at which the activity is performed. So it's all about how forceful my exercise will be. Still, with consideration to my existing stats, I would prefer to engage in moderate intensity. As much as I want to exercise similarly to how enthusiasts do, I am aware of my limits well enough, and I do not plan to push beyond them, as it should be moderate. Now, this heart rate here is not identical to the one recorded on the previous module. This is my resting heart rate. So it's my BPM without prior exercise or exertion of force. So here, it's 96 beats per minute, and this value is actually very important because I'd be using it in determining all these remaining components. So, for example, here's my heart rate reserve. It says 64% as translated by this table. Under the physiological measures column, there's the percentage of maximal heart rate, and it gives 64 to 75 for moderate intensity. That's how I got 64%. I'd be on the lower boundary. Yes. Now for the target heart rate and heart rate at high and low intervals, we'll be using the formula, the difference of 220, it's a constant representing maximum heart rate. So yeah, it's the difference between 220, your age, and resting heart rate, multiplied to the heart rate reserve and added with a separate value of the resting heart rate. So as you can see, I have subtracted 220 with 19, that's my age, and 96, my resting heart rate. I multiplied the difference with 0.64, heart rate reserve in decimal form, and added 96 again. So that gives me a target heart rate of 163 beats per minute. The same applies to the heart rate at high interval, while we'll only be altering the heart rate reserve factor for the lower interval. Here we'll take a half value of it, that's 32%, and kaboom, we get 130 beats per minute. So just to clarify, these values are approximations. So I have rounded them off to the nearest whole number. Moving on, the board rate of perceived exertion can be found in this table. So my preferred intensity translates to 3. Moderate in the modified board scale is represented by the number 3. For the third category, we have time. So it's expectedly understandable with just the word, right? And we have used these diagrams in identifying the targets. So since I chose moderate intensity, I'd be using this model and do a 5-minute warm-up at low interval, 30 minutes of exercise, that's the stimulus, and 3 minutes of cooling down at low interval. So I'd be repeating this for a single cycle only because 2 or more would be too exhausting for me already. Finally, for the type of exercise, in a nutshell, that's the routine itself I'd be doing. And I was allowed to choose between cardio, aerobic, flexibility, and strengthening exercise. And what more can satisfy these 4 in 1? You've guessed that right, probably. I chose Zumba dancing. For me not to feel the pressure this activity brings too much, I would integrate my core hobby, which is K-pop. And since I love vibing to K-pop choreographies, I'd be using the Zumba translation of some of my favorite songs. That would be very enjoyable, at the same time beneficial in terms of my physical status. Moving on to the muscular resistance training prescription, we have relatively the same introductory details as the first prescription. Training age is 19. Goal is to enhance breathing and release toxins via perspiration. So it is of global knowledge that we excrete toxins with sweat. So imagine the amount of excretion just as we exercise for 4 straight weeks. So yeah, that would be a lot. Volume, that's moderate, which will be done twice a week. That's almost the same schedule as the cardiovascular conditioning, Sundays and Thursdays, to satisfy the minimum of 48-hour gap dedicated to rest. All these and the following routines, to sum up, takes roughly 60 minutes of my time daily. Moving downwards, I have personally chosen these 3 warm-up routines. I see these as the most manageable, at least. So that's the arm circle, side stretch, and hip rotations, which I'd be doing for 30 seconds each. And to treat them fairly, I'd be equally repeating them for 2 sets with 1 repetition each. Now for the exercise proper, the core routines of this activity, I have chosen the relatively easier ones, which are burpees, curl-ups, leg lift, lunges, push-ups, and squats. And I have allotted 3 sets, 7 reps, and 2-minute rests in between for each of them. Now these loads per 1 RM or repetition maximum and RPE rating of perceived exertion are derived from these tables. So since these equally consider moderate intensity, that's 67% to 85% in the table, and as for me, that would be 70%. The RPE values here are the only ones that differ from this section, this column particularly, and that's mainly because I perceive each of their difficulty levels differently. So harder ones are given higher numbers, in this example 6, then 5 and 4 for the manageable ones. 4 for curl-ups, 5 for burpees and lunges, and 6 for leg lift, push-ups, and squats. Lastly, we have the cool down stretch, and I have listed here 3 preferences: arms across chest, ham stretch, and shoulder stretch. So I'd be equally performing them for 30 seconds each, 2 sets, and 1 rep. That would be all for this video. I hope I was able to defend my exercise prescription logically, and I hope I was making sense all this time. So I hope that was understandable enough and convincing as well. So yeah, I have attached in the same portal a soft copy of those prescriptions, and we'll be seeing each other during my actual training. So that's it. Thanks for watching.